Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, a new bail act passed in Parliament on Wednesday to provide greater clarity for bail applications process. The private sector encouraged to take advantage of a government tax amnesty which has been extended to the end of January 2021. And comments on the country's debt burden by UWP Senator draws sharp rebuke from government parliamentarian. The details of the news coming up.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. We're in this together. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
First up in the news, a new bail act passed in Parliament on Wednesday means that some offences will not attract bail even if the accused has a right to bail. Minister for National Security and Home Affairs, Reuben Blackmore, outlined some of the main aspects of the legislation.
Mr. Speaker, Section 6 in that regard is the relevant section, and therefore outline the circumstances in which bail may be denied. However, Mr. Speaker, this Act lists offences where bail shall not be granted, and I want to reference those offences for emphasis, Mr. Speaker. Offences such as murder, treason, drug trafficking, violent offences including the use of firearms, kidnapping, abduction, robbery or rape, terrorism, and offences punishable by a term of imprisonment of 5 years or more. And the relevant section, Mr. Speaker, is Section 7. Mr. Speaker, it's also important to note that the proposed act retains most of the judicial discretion that is necessary in bail hearing and give guidance to the type of issues that the court may consider during its deliberation. Mr. Speaker, the proposed bill therefore outlines the condition of bail in Part 3. A person who is granted bail must surrender to custody, and the defendant may be required to give surety for his surrender. The relevant section being Section 8. And this act, which is being proposed before this Honorable House, gives the court the requisite tools to curtail the movement of offenders, especially if they are considered to be flight risk or a danger to the safety of the victims and witnesses.
The removal of value-added tax and import duty on packaging and labeling materials as well as machinery is expected to stimulate competitiveness, or rather competitively produced local goods. The Value-Added Tax Amendment Act was passed in Parliament on Wednesday.
Mr. Speaker, while the manufacturing sector, like in every island of the Eastern Caribbean, is relatively small, this government has identified the sector as one with immense growth potential. We see the development and expansion of that sector as one of our paths to sustainable development and prosperity. In the last 20 years, Mr. Speaker, the small manufacturing sector in particular has been expanding at a modest pace and at times have contributed as high as 1/5 of the country's GDP. But we review this as just scratching the surface. The sector has had its many challenges, yes, and has been badly hit in recent years by effects of hurricanes and other disasters. The global pandemic this year has no doubt heaped additional pressures on the sector. Additionally, there is growing competition for some of the things we produce from abroad, from companies with bigger bases and capacities that can churn out products at more cost-effective levels. It is in understanding these things that this government, Mr. Speaker, is clear that it has to provide support, incentives, and allowable protection to our manufacturers. This government has consistently shown its support for the sector over the years by not just its regular engagement, but by the many initiatives to help keep our manufacturers afloat and expanding.
These measures are said to be progressive in that they are focused on eliminating hurdles and fast-tracking manufacturing, effectively diversifying the local economy.
Mr. Speaker, let it be stated here loudly and clearly that this government believes in the immense potential of manufacturing in Dominica, and we understand that it needs every opportunity to breathe again. We believe, Mr. Speaker, that the possibilities for job creation are unlimited if advantage is taken of the resources that are available for agricultural production, exploration of natural resources, tourism, wellness, and agro-processing. But growth potential we speak about is not just limited to those sectors. As we seek to expand and diversify the local economy, this is the background and context why we stand here today to fulfill a commitment given at the presentation of the 2020-2021 budget as regards to the removal of value-added tax on raw materials, packaging and labeling materials, equipment and machinery imported for use by the manufacturers.
The Value-Added Tax Amendment Act is believed to be the right move in the context of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the local economy.
This bill, Mr. Speaker, is part of a number of other measures that this government has instituted or still has under active consideration in its continuing support and promotion of its important productive arm to this local economy. This is a progressive measure because while government will lose revenue upfront, the national economy will gain, and in the end, government will recoup the money by the increased activity that it will influence. The removal of VAT on packaging and labeling materials will eliminate one cost level in the production and will do two things. One, it will ease some of the cash flow pressures on a lot of these manufacturers face up front, and two, it will allow them to churn out products at lower costs, thus making them more competitive in the marketplace.
UWP Senator Ernie John Finn does not believe that government was exercising prudence by seeking parliamentary approval to borrow 27 million EC dollars from the OPEC Fund for International Development. John Finn is concerned that these funds will place a greater debt burden on the country and negatively impact its future. John Finn said debt was a two-edged sword which must be used wisely and in moderation. She believes it clearly improves welfare when used prudently, but when used in excess, the result can be devastating. The UWP Senator believes government should have used alternative sources of local funding such as the CBI to finance COVID-19 emergency response. The Senator is of the view that such debt burdens will be passed on to future generations. She believes Dominica's debt is already too high. Meantime, MP for Soufriere constituency and Minister for Tourism Denise Charles has chastised UWP Senator Ernie John Finn for making what she says amounts to unfounded statements in Parliament. Charles was defending a request by the Minister for Finance for parliamentary approval to borrow 27 million EC dollars from the OPEC Fund for International Development. Government requested additional funding to continue to respond to the health, social and economic aspects or impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic.
John Finn, has two issues, Mr. Speaker. One, she always appears to be confused. Because it's as if, Mr. Speaker, she got the papers and realized that it is time for Parliament, and she went to visit the fish market and figure what is the latest gossip around town, picked up a few notes of what she heard, and came to present that as research and factual information in the House. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, why I think she appears to be confused, is that she speaks about reckless spending, excess, no budgeting, no planning, as if that was the period of governance between 1995 to 1999. Because the last government we have on record that almost collapsed the Dominican economy was the United Workers' Party. That is the only party on record that could not pay civil servants. At the end of the month, you're baffled. You're wondering, am I going to get paid today, tomorrow, next week? Not the Dominican Labour Party government, the United Workers' Party government, which she's happy to be a part of.
Charles made the point that Senator John Finn and the EWP need to look in the mirror and their record in government.
DSS almost went bankrupt under the United Workers' Party government. And don't talk about DAPEX, which collapsed in the hands of members of the United Workers' Party government. So, Mr. Speaker, and let me not remind them of who borrowed funds at a commercial bank in Trinidad. What, Honorable Douglas, for how many millions? 14 million? $140 million at 14% on the backs of hard-working, ordinary Dominicans. Didn't they think about the future and the generations to come? That we still, after 20 years, we are still paying that debt. So I think she mixes up the governance period. But let her know that is only under the Dominican Labour Party government that financial institutions like the Aid Bank and IMF got restored confidence in our economy, and that is why today we can attract interest rates of 1 to 3%, sometimes even 0.5%, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I needed to make that point to correct some of the gossip we heard here in the House. It's first time for me hearing so much gossip and people even admitting when they're speaking that they're not sure if what they're saying is factual, but they're repeating it, Mr. Speaker. But I'm here to learn, Mr. Speaker.
You are watching Channel 5 News. We'll have more coming up.
A new in-home experience is here. All your services bundled into one simple plan. Faster, more reliable Wi-Fi so that you can binge, play, and stream uninterrupted. Unlimited flow local landline minutes mean you can talk and talk and talk. Plus the best in TV entertainment with over 120 channels and 29 in HD. All for $160 a month with the new all-in bundle. With Flow, it only gets better.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. We're in this together. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
Thank you for staying with us. Prime Minister Skerrit has described the tax amnesty or rebate as a once-in-a-lifetime offer that the private sector should take advantage of. That tax rebate, originally set for December 31st, will now expire at the end of January 2021. Speaking in Parliament on Wednesday, the Prime Minister said the waiver of the penalty and interest on taxes amounts to a stimulus.
Within these legislations, Mr. Speaker, the parent legislation, it gives the state far-reaching powers to collect monies due to it, including garnishing people's accounts. And so we could have gone through that route
to collect monies. And one could say, well, there will be no need to borrow this $27 million. But we are mindful, Mr. Speaker, that this pandemic is impacting everyone, including the private sector, including our citizens and residents. And in an effort to give the private sector greater access to working capital and capital to sustain their businesses, we have reached out to them and offered them this amnesty. That is, and this amnesty, I believe, Mr. Speaker, may have been unprecedented. I am satisfied it is unprecedented in our country. And because of the extraordinary circumstance which we have found ourselves in as a country.
The Prime Minister says so far he's pleased with the response to the tax amnesty.
I am happy to know, based on reports I have seen, that a number of people, over 100 people so far, individuals and businesses, have taken advantage of this amnesty. And there are some in the private sector who reached out to us as a government to say, look, my books are already back, and my accountant is working on this. We need a couple more weeks to complete the exercise, to submit our taxes to the authorities. And I took the matter to the cabinet to extend it up until December 31. And there were some colleagues who said, well, let us just take it to January 31. And there was unanimous support for this, and this is why we're here. First, to give legislative authority to the policy statement in the budget to provide this amnesty for income tax, for VAT, for excise tax. And secondly, to also approve of the extension from the budget address to January 31.
Mr. Skerrit says these measures are outcomes of his consultations with relevant stakeholders.
Policy decision. It has made the books up to date. It has removed this liability on the books, and it puts them in a better circumstance to treat with the financial institutions and to treat with the finances and their shareholders. Because once you owe the state, there's always this thing around over your head that the long arm of the state can always come at you. But the reality is we have tried not to extend the arm of the state too far because we understand the circumstance. And in looking at policies and programs and all of this, Mr. Speaker, during the COVID-19, when people were in the mountains hiding away from people, I was consulting a wide cross-section of society at this famous farmhouse, Mr. Speaker, and listening to people about their issues. What can the government do to make life better for you? What can the government do to make your business grow and to make more profit? This is what I engaged people in during the COVID lockdown, Mr. Speaker. And all of these policies that we've seen come up in this year's budget address, and those that we came here today to seek parliamentary approval for, came from those consultations. And this is why, if the opposition has anything constructive to offer, then I am open. I have an open door policy. Now you can sit with me and say, Skerrit, you know, boy, we can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you know, if we do this way and that way. Let us be constructive. And this is what the government is about, and I'm very happy that we're able to follow through on this decision. In that case, we're talking about the value-added tax, but there's also the excise tax, and the Parliament gives the Cabinet the authority to deal with the income tax issues and so on. So a number of people have taken advantage of it, and from estimates, based on the number of people who sent me WhatsApp messages, the number will increase significantly by the end of January 2021.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts, with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. We're in this together. This is a public service announcement from the Dominica Red Cross.
A new in-home experience is here. All your services bundled into one simple plan. Faster, more reliable Wi-Fi so that you can binge, play, and stream uninterrupted. Unlimited Flow local landline minutes mean you can talk and talk and talk. Plus the best in TV entertainment with over 120 channels and 29 in HD, all for $160 a month with the new all-in bundle. With Flow, it only gets better.
To end the news, the headlines again. A new Bail Act passed in Parliament on Wednesday to provide greater clarity for bail applications process. The private sector encouraged to take advantage of a government tax amnesty, which has been extended to the end of January 2021. And comments on the country's debt burden by UWP Senator just sharp rebuke from government parliamentarian. You may access the news on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thanks for watching. Join us tomorrow.